Project Education, celebrating learning solutions for the 21st century.
These students at the Pioneer Middle School in the Wyoming County community of Yorkshire Corners are participating in a teaching project geared to meet the needs and demands of the 21st century. They're part of a commitment called Project Education, which calls for structural reforms in education. It deals with a new philosophy for learning as well as new images of schooling. Assistant Principal Karen McGamwell explains the special concept here called the inclusive school.
No one is excluded because of a handicapping condition or a learning disability. Everyone is working with their peers, their neighbors, their friends, the kids that they live with on the same street. No one travels to a school outside of the school district. Everyone is taught right with their friends. The kids with multiple disabilities were being transported 50 miles away from their homes in order to be educated appropriately, which I'm sure was fine then. But when you think about it, it's not appropriate to take someone out of their home neighborhood and teach them away from their friends. Half of the kids have some kind of a learning disability or a physical disability, where 50% of the kids would be what we would term regular ed students. They work in cooperative learning groups, helping each other with what their strength is. The one boy in the wheelchair has obviously some multiple needs. He participates in the class by helping and doing things that are appropriate to what the goals are for him. They're not the same goals as what some of the other kids in the class have.
Do you feel that this has been a successful program to date?
I'd have to say absolutely, absolutely. In that room which you were in earlier, there were a lot of different things happening, and the student who was in there with severe disabilities, he was working on things that really met his need. He was working visually. He has a lot of visual problems, so he needs to look at people. He has to work on reaching and grasping and motor movements, and we tied a lot of that into a real situation which was motivating for him. And for other kids in the classroom, there were kids in there who need extra math help, who have been identified as needing extra help in math, and those kids were getting the help they needed right in there, all mixed together. And I bet you couldn't tell me which of those other kids needed the extra math help.
Kids that have disabilities, minor disabilities, find a place in their world that they can help someone who has greater needs. On the other side, the kids with multiple disabilities also help us in our daily living. They make copies on our copy machine. They have jobs where they stuff mailboxes or cut paper or whatever. So they're contributing back, which, as we all know, we all need to contribute to feel important and needed, and everyone has a job here.
For a lot of activities, we don't need any extra adults there. You know, the kids are more than willing, and they really enjoy working with one another. The other options for that individual basically are a separate special ed classroom in a regular building with real minimal contact with other kids, or a separate school building altogether. The drawbacks to that are that you don't get to know kids in your community. When this fella in the math group, when he goes out to McDonald's or when he goes shopping with his mom and dad, he sees kids, he sees adults who know him, who talk to him, who like to talk to him, who know how to talk to him. You lose a lot of that if kids are far away or if they never get out of a room.
Thank you, Mark.
Good job. Eric, would you erase that for me? Mark, here comes the next one. Mark, you have to look here. If Pioneer wasn't offering an inclusive program, if you will, he'd be in a classroom with 5 or 6 other kids who don't walk very well, who don't talk very well, and I would ask how stimulating an environment is that for someone to learn in.
Does this project tie in with New York State's new compact for learning?
I think so. I think in most of the areas it does. Probably the one that stands out the most is that all children can learn. And I think they all do learn, and they all are learning at the level that's appropriate for them, and they're excelling.
It's just because a kid has a reading problem or a little math problem doesn't mean you have to pull them out necessarily. There are lots of ways to teach that kid with his friends.
We were scared when we started into this program. It is a scary step, but it is not only morally right, it's educationally right. And these kids are gaining, and they're also giving back to our school. And it's worth the risk and the step that you have to take.
Teachers need to be able to share ideas. We need to be able to talk to one another and see what's working. I've learned so much from being in rooms like this about teaching, not just kids with severe disabilities, but teaching all kinds of kids. And I think this isn't just, it's a school community. We're helping all kids, but I think we're helping all the adults that are in here as well, which has benefited me.
I understand you have a young student here who has written a very special poem.
Mm-hmm. And she wrote a story about her friend Amanda, and it probably speaks more clearly than I could ever speak to how wonderfully this program works for kids.
Amanda Andrews is 10 years old. She has made a big change in my life. You probably think I am writing about a friend of mine. I am, but she is different than you and me. She has cerebral palsy. She cannot talk or move as well as you and me. Amanda Andrews is very, very smart. Amanda started in 3rd grade with her head on her chest. She did not even know what 1 + 1 equaled. She has learned addition and subtraction. She is even starting to read and write like you and me. Amanda loves to write stories. She writes about mom, dad, brother, and her pretend sister. Amanda has fun in school. She has more friends than anyone I know. I have known her for 3 years. Now she can say quite a few words. Amanda Andrews is in 5th grade and still going.
Ready, gang, for the next one?
Is it just 4 corners?
This one's just 4 corners. Okay? Mark, here comes the next word. Show the gang.
For more information about this school project and how you can become more involved with the education process, write WNED-TV, Channel 17, care of Project Education, 184 Barton Street, Buffalo, New York, 14213.